CTO and co-founder at Huntress. Welcome to the CyberBytes podcast. How's your few days in Vegas been so far?
So far, good. I'm always excited to be here. So, thanks for having me.
What number event would you say this is for you?
Probably somewhere between like 10 and 15. Like we've been coming for a lot of years. We did trainings here prior, Kyle and I. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a lot of people in the industry call it like a hacker summer camp.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Interesting. Cool. Well, look, with all guests, we always take it back. So tell me a little bit as how you got into the industry, what gave you these ideas, and really what got you to where you are today with Huntress.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had started out kind of doing offensive cybersecurity for the intelligence community. So we learned a lot there about how attackers work, what they did, what worked well, what didn't work well. And as we were kind of looking for a change, we started to throw around some of these ideas of like, what else could we do that would, be different? And so we started to kind of pull on that thread, and we found that, everybody had antivirus, but everybody still got malware. And so we really kind of solidified on that and said, like, why is this? Like, is there something else that we could do that would be different, that would, solve some of this problem? And so that's where we really, started with Huntress and said, hey, let's try to look at a different set of data or look at it differently in some way that would let us find stuff that was missed by antivirus. And so we started there, and then it just kind of kept growing from there.
Cool. And talk to me a little bit about Huntress. What is it you guys do, the problem you try and solve?
Yeah, so we started out, like I said, trying to do what we called foothold detection. So finding stuff missed by antivirus. But then we really started to get a lot of feedback from our partners saying like, hey, we need some sort of managed security system. Like we don't have security people. We can't hire them. We can't afford to train them and retain them. A lot of our customers are your IT shops, right? And they might have one or two security people. Some of them even have a SOC, but what they're really looking to do is how can they focus on the laundry list of things that they would love to do but don't have time to do. And so over the years, we really built out, started with that foothold detection, turned that into a whole endpoint detection and response, the EDR product. And then we went from there to, doing IT detection and response. So for identities. So think about like if you're a user of Microsoft 365, email, documents, all that kind of stuff. It used to be a lot simpler to kind of manage, right? You had your own Exchange server and all that. You could put a firewall around it. It was pretty easy to manage. Now that it's in the cloud and Microsoft's running it, it's a whole different game. And so people are trying to figure out how do they take in all the information there and secure it. We acquired a security awareness training product.
Nice.
And we've been building that out and continuing to expand on that. And then we just launched our SIEM product. So
nice.
We're kind of spread out, running the gambit. A lot of our partners keep coming to us and saying like, hey, I got these other things I'd like to do in security, or there's this stuff that I'm not doing or whatever. Can you help with that? Can you build something, whatever? So, really we're expanding on the security stack that we manage.
Nice. And if a customer does come to you and say, look, we have a problem with this and stuff, you guys internally, are you always sort of developing the product to see how many functions you can get to, or is there limits to where you probably can't go into? And
yeah, I mean, we're always looking to expand, right? Like, and I think that's just where it's always been, customers kind of pulling us, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? The thing that we always have to weigh it with is how many people want it. What segment of it? And so like we heard this a lot initially with like Macs. People would say, hey, your EDR supports Windows, it's great, but we need it to support Mac. And the question we would always ask is, okay, well, how many Macs do you have? Like, how many of those do you have? And it was, we got a few hundred there, or a few hundred here. And it was always some really small portion of our total number of endpoints. And so we wanted to do something there, but we always had to balance it with like, how much effort do we put into a thing that could really only service a small portion of our partners versus could we use that same time and effort and do something that would service a lot of people. So there's always that balance of just trying to figure out what can we do and how many people will it help. And this is actually an idea we stole from Shopify.
Okay.
So, Shopify talks about they'll build the stuff that services 80% of their customer base.
Nice.
And anything that doesn't, they have a whole marketplace and an API and somebody else can build on that. So that's what we try to focus on is like, can we do stuff for 80% of our customers?
Nice. And how big is the threat to your customers in what you guys kind of prevent?
I mean, it's pretty big if you look at it, right? Like a lot of security has really changed a lot in the last couple of years as attackers have really figured out how to monetize it, right? Even before that, it was a lot of, they're going to steal our data and do, espionage or create competing products or whatever, right? And then with the rise of ransomware, and with the kind of trend of ransomware going to like we're going to take the data and we're going to sell it openly, and that's going to cause you other financial problems and lawsuits and things like that. It really all starts to get bigger and become like a bigger problem for everyone. And it's shifted from like companies having to just think about like, how do I protect my infrastructure, right? That was the thinking for a long time. It's like, I'll get some firewalls, I'll get some whatever, and nobody will be able to get to my systems, and that's fine. And now attackers have really shifted to, well, you've got thousands of employees. If I can just get a few of them to do this thing, I now have access into your network as that employee. What can that employee now do? What can they touch? And so like, it's no longer just about let's secure the network. It's the network plus the people plus everything that they're using.
Brilliant. And like you say, you mentioned there that infrastructure was a big thing. I can imagine obviously things then develop into the cloud. And more importantly, nowadays, the term AI is used a lot.
Yep.
How big a threat is that to you guys in terms of like protecting consistently?
I mean, the cloud is hard. Okay. I think the thing that we're still kind of waiting on the cloud to catch up on is a lot of the ability to like manage user accounts, a lot of the auditing capabilities that we've expected with kind of on-prem, whether it's like servers or something like Active Directory. You can see where your users are logging in and what are they doing. With a lot of these like third-party cloud services that companies are using to help them do marketing better or store their files or whatever. There is no audit log. There's no real good way to secure that. And so that is becoming a real challenge and one that we're looking at. And then, AI is a whole other thing, right? Like how much are you putting in there? How much are you getting out? How can you ensure that like, that your proprietary data doesn't become part of the next training set that then gets spit out to your competitor or whoever else. So I think it's a challenge. I think there's still a lot of unknowns there that need to be figured out.
Okay. And do you see like us as individuals and sort of like the lack of awareness and the lack of training is a big part of this issue?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, and it's a changing landscape, right? So the training that we always try to do is like, how can we stay one step ahead or how can we at least try to keep parity with what attackers are doing? Email phishing for a long time was the thing. Now we see a lot more SMS stuff, people getting messages, whether it's, hey, you have a package that couldn't be delivered and you need to sign here, or send me gift cards, I'm in a meeting, or any of those kind of things, right? Like that's where it's really going now, and becoming more like personal, like individual attacks and stuff like that. And like, we've looked at trying to replicate that with our products, and like none of the providers of kind of like SMS sending allow it, right? It's not legal, and so they won't let us do it. So it's hard for us to then even simulate some things like that.
Brilliant. And you mentioned there that, like you say, that the business is trying to always stay one step ahead.
Yep.
You've been going for 9 years this month, is that correct?
Yeah.
So how are you as a business, like continually developing the product? How are you staying that one step ahead?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is we try to combine a bunch of different data. So we go to a lot of trade shows. Like I specifically go to a lot and go spend a bunch of time at the booth because I want to talk to the people who are living it, to the people who are the IT people, the security practitioners.
Real life.
Yeah.
Invest in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I ask them a lot of questions. Hey, what's working? Like what's not working? What are your challenges? What do you wish you could do that you're not doing today? We also have a bunch of security researchers on staff who, are always following what are the newest trends, What could be done better or worse? How are people getting attacked? So we take that kind of data, we take feedback from our partners and feature requests and all these things. And we really try to synthesize that and come up with like, what's the challenge that a lot of our partners are facing? And then let's go do that. And so for us, our roadmap is fairly fluid because we always, have to, unlike somebody who's building a product just to solve a need, the need is constantly changing. There's attackers on the other side who are changing and modifying their techniques, and there's new technology and new ways. So we're always trying to be adaptive as much as we can.
Nice. And like you say, being a company that's been around for some time and continually developing, there's obviously a lot of startups that probably try and do exactly what you do and think they have incredible ideas, which no doubt they do. How are you guys as a business going to, I suppose, stay ahead of that curve of new vendors coming through the likes as such?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's staying ahead of it is one thing. I mean, we embrace it in a lot of cases, right? So we will try to talk with early companies and new founders and just try to figure out, hey, what are you doing? Does it align with what we're doing? And does it make sense to kind of combine and do it together? Like I said, we acquired a security awareness training. We're always looking at that kind of stuff. We often measure our differentiators in customer experience, right? So the main thing with Huntress is everything we do is managed. We don't sell any tools. A lot of other security vendors, they'll sell you a tool, and then you have to have your own security people to set it up, to monitor it, to run it, all that kind of stuff. And so everything that we build, we have to figure out how do we run it at scale to pull in millions of data, data from millions of endpoints or anything like that. And then how do we filter that down to the stuff that actually needs to go to a human to review? And that's some of, I think, what has set us apart from a lot of our competition. But there's always new people coming in with some new idea, trying to do something else. So, we try to figure out what it is, learn from it, maybe do it ourselves, or see if they're interested in, kind of combining forces.
And that's like this week, for example, like you say, you'll be on the booth this week, right? Speaking to those end users, figuring out what their niggling problems are and trying to really understand what those guys are doing.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's one of the most enjoyable parts, because, people will always kind of tell you nice things to your face about your product. Like, oh, this is great. I love it, whatever, but when you ask them hey, what can you not do that you wish you could do? What sucks, right? And then they'll really start opening up I've been trying to do this thing, but it sucks. Or my leadership is pushing us to do more of this, and we don't have time, and we don't have the people, and they won't give us more headcount, right? It's those kind of things that I think that's where you find the real pain points and the real things that if you can solve for them, if you can build a product that makes that easier or gets rid of that pain for them, that's where they'll buy it.
Okay, cool. What one piece of advice would you give, not just me sat here, but the guys you speak to day in, day out? What's that biggest bit of advice you'd give?
Always be curious, right? There's always new stuff. Always, just be trying to learn, figure out how this works or how, that or why this thing. I think that is, super important. That's a thing that we look for in people that we hire. People with kind of infinite curiosity who really want to dig in and understand it. We talk about it as first principle thinking of how do we continue to break the problem down into smaller and smaller until we get to those basic fundamental ideas where you can't simplify it anymore. And now once you do that, you really start to understand okay, I know why this was done this way or done that way, or, based on these things, why doesn't somebody do this? So I think those are the things that can help you the most, whether you're looking to build products or get into security or, business or anything. Just be curious and really try to understand why things are the way they are. Don't just accept it at face value.
Absolutely. And like you say, moving forward, and if we as individuals don't act on this and it gets worse, or do you actually see the kind of landscape improving over time?
I think it definitely improves, but it also changes.
Okay.
And we've seen this with the, advent of, when we really started selling to a lot of the SMBs that we sell to, they had pretty basic, or what we would consider basic security for today's standards of, they had an antivirus, they had DNS filtering maybe, they had email filtering, and that was really it. right? They weren't, they didn't have EDR. They weren't managing third-party SaaS applications or anything like that. And so over the years, we've seen more adoption of these technologies like EDR, security awareness training and stuff like that. And so like the bar has been raised as far as like, what does it mean to have even basic security these days? But then as technology evolves and adapts, now there's more things, right? So it's a never ending, process of continually figuring out what the next thing is and trying to improve where you're at.
Brilliant. And to wrap this conversation up, like over the next 6 months, 12 months, the next 5 years, for example, what are Huntress going to be doing? Anything interesting you can tell us?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, we've looked at like not only how can we detect the stuff that's happening after it's happened, but how can we secure it? So we're looking into a bunch of things around security posture management. How do we help you set up your products in a way that are more secure? So think of like Microsoft 365. There's thousands of settings. And, when I talk to most people, they don't know what most of them are or what they do, or even what what are the good security baselines? What should we turn on? You know? So we're looking to do that kind of stuff. We think that like third-party SaaS as a whole is going to become a really big thing. I think we looked at it and we use something like just like as a 400-person company, we use like 300 SaaS products.
Wow!
So whether that's things to help us do like marketing or documents or sales tools or product tools or whatever it happens to be, right? We've got 300 of them. And managing them is a big pain, right? Figuring out, okay, if we want to hire somebody, where do they need access? If somebody leaves, what are the things they had access to? How do we turn that off? That's a big pain. So if it's a pain for us, it's definitely a pain for other people. So I think those are the two big areas that we're looking at for the near future.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you very much for coming on. Enjoy your next few days in Vegas, and hopefully, we'll definitely be staying in touch.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this very special Black Hat 2024 edition of CyberBytes, the podcast. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share with your colleagues and friends. We are always looking for new guests to feature on CyberBytes. If you would like to, please reach out. Furthermore, if you are a candidate looking for your next role, technical or go-to-market, then please reach out directly or via our company email info@asperonsearch.com.